why in the world did people call you guys quote unquote a gay emo band back in the day? When to me, you guys look like a bunch of Huntington jocks. You're playing this like over the top, shredding progressive metal stuff. Like, are you guys just prog virgins in the body of Huntington Chads?
Yeah, I don't know. We got called a lot of things when we were coming up. And emo was one of those ones that always kind of like, kind of hurt because it was like, I remember when we first did Sounding the Seventh Trumpet and when we later did Waking the Fallen, I got a couple emails from some very upset fans and they started calling us Hot Topic Mallcore. And, this was the invention or the beginning of Hot Topic Mallcore. And then everything that kind of came with it. I think there was like Thursday was happening at the time and Thrice was happening at the time. And Island Records was signing these bands. It was like a big deal that, some post-hardcore, different alternative music was going to the major labels. And because we came up in that scene, and I'm not calling them emo or whatever, but we kind of got lumped into this sort of thing where it's like, well, you're not on Ozfest. You're not really playing metal. You're playing Warped Tour and you're playing with emo bands and you're all wearing eyeliner and black t-shirts. So you are an emo band and you are other words that we're not going to get into, but
right.
We got called all sorts of things. We all know
the words.
Yeah. We know the words.
Yeah.
I don't have a good answer for you.
I don't know. To me, it always felt like 18 Visions is the first thing that came to mind to me when I saw you guys back then.
Yeah. And James was, man, I love James. And growing up, I really looked up to James a lot. He was older than me. He was at Huntington High School, that whole crew, Monster Crew, and like what they were doing. And, we would tag along to the shows with them, the Earth Crisis shows or the VOD shows when they come to Orange County or Poison the Well or whatever it was. But he was one of those guys that was really blurring the lines of like, he was a badass. Like that dude was in fights every weekend. Their whole crew was crazy. Then he'd go on stage and he's wearing eyeliner and he's like got the scarf around his neck and they were wearing pink and they were doing all these things. And so I think that was a really fun time, but they were really blurring the lines of like what it meant to be a hardcore band. And they were really putting, this eccentric sort of style to Orange County hardcore. It was like a different thing, right? It wasn't necessarily, Sick of It All or these bands coming from the East Coast. This was Orange County and it was a completely different thing. So it was cool. It's cool to think about that.
Yeah. When I saw Unholy Confessions, I was like, oh, I see where they're headed with this.
Yeah. It was like a mashup of Orange County and AFI and all these things that we were really, really into.
Well, I always felt like Avenged was kind of the band that the metal dorks said that they always wanted, meaning that you guys play these like crazy, complex, sprawling songs with, these ripping solos. You had, Bat Country on TRL. I think that solo was like a minute long and which is absurd. And then you're getting all this stuff in front of mainstream audiences in the way that they said they always wanted. But then when you did it, they didn't want it.
Yeah. And you constantly deal with that, right? You always hear those loudest voices that want one thing. And by the way, we'll get into this later, I'm sure, but everyone also wants rock and roll to be dangerous. And then you get characters that are dangerous and they don't want it. No. Yeah. Be dangerous. But how we want you to be dangerous. Say things that we want you to say, but if you step outside of that box, then no. So, it's just, and you have online now, when we first started, there was no real internet culture. There was no internet. We were maybe scrolling through AOL, chat rooms at the time being trolls, but we weren't in these sort of like communities where these loud voices or even these opinions, that this hive mentality of thinking about something and just kind of this weird sort of attack culture where you have a bunch of people that are literally the voice of expertise when they're not experts at all about things and everyone kind of believes it. It's a really weird thing. And So yeah, we came up in a different time, and it's interesting because everyone wanted rock to be in the mainstream again, but not you guys, not the way you're doing it, and not like that, right? And so it is what it is.